Saints Falcons preview rivalry week. Some would say OTB, T Bob and Jacob Hester. Can the Saints get on a roll against the struggling Falcons?
Or New Orleans Saints had a little bye week to regroup.
So did the Falcons.
Find themselves, like Mickey Loomis says, right? There's not too much more building character or team that you're going to do in this final portion of the season. Over these last 7 games, you're just going to discover who you are, right? Like who the truth of who you are.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've had this conversation a million times where the whole idea of we're building, we're growing pains, we're just doing this, we're just taking our time. It's week 12, okay? The time for that's over. If you keep doing that, if you keep growing, if you keep whatever phrase you want it to be, all of a sudden you're going to look around and the season's going to be over. So this is where the rubber meets the road. The Saints have to win this game. And then guess what? They got to win the next game. And then guess what? They got to win the next game. The Saints can lose, per my projections, the Saints can lose one game. That's Detroit. December 3rd. That's it. They can drop that one and probably still win the division, probably still host a playoff game, probably still win double-digit games. All right? What they cannot do is lose games to the Falcons. What they cannot do is lose game to the Panthers or the Bucks or the Giants or some of these other teams that we play in the back half of the season. We're off a bye. The bye was much needed because of the injuries, because of what's going on, which we will discuss in this video. I don't want to be over dramatic here, but this is the season. The season is on the line in Atlanta. We have absolutely no reason to lose this game. They are starting Desmond Ridder. Desmond Ridder is garbage. All right. Hate to be the guy to say that on a holiday week, no less. But Desmond Ridder is trash. So if we can't beat Desmond Ridder and the Falcons in their current state after off a bye, then we're in more trouble than I thought.
Is going to be revealed. And right now, the truth appears to be a bit of a muddled mess. You appear to be wildly inconsistent.
Yep.
As truth. We laid out in some stunning visual representation last week, you appear to have the worst offensive coordinator in the entire NFL, and 100%. It's not even particularly.
Yep. I didn't watch that video he's referencing, but we did a video on our channel where we showed a bunch of charts, graphs, analytics, and whatnot that shows, without a shadow of a doubt, Pete Carmichael is far and away the worst offensive coordinator in the NFL. And, you know, that's kind of another part of this, too. How I kept saying, or I was saying in the first part of this video, the time for change, the time for growing, the time for whatever, that time's over. Big facts. Big facts. And that kind of goes with Carmichael and Allen. We know Carmichael and Allen are bad. We know they are losers, okay? We know Carmichael is one of the worst. Check that. We know Carmichael is the worst offensive coordinator in the NFL. That's not going to change in the next 7 weeks. It's not going to change. Dennis Allen isn't going to all of a sudden go from his 20-48 record as a head coach or whatever to a winning head coach. We have to survive the next 7 weeks, hopefully get into the playoffs, hopefully win the division, and then we need to move on. So the conversation of, wow, guys, I just noticed Pete Carmichael is the worst offensive coordinator in the NFL, or wow, guys, I just noticed Dennis Allen is the most losingest head coach in NFL history. We know that stuff, guys. So we've made our bed. We have to lie in it. We've got to finish the season. We got to finish strong. It's on the players. It's on the players at this point. Great players can overcome the situation that they're in, and they got to do it. We have to lean on Carr. We have to lean on Kamara. We have to lean on Demario Davis, Cam Jordan, Marshawn Lattimore. We got to lean on those guys. Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, Taysom Hill. The coaching staff is not going to get us there. The players have to do it. And good news for us as Saints fans is that our roster is talented. We're not leaning on, Kadarius Toney and Montez Valdez-Scantling and Justin Watson like the Chiefs are. We're not leaning on some of the skill position players that like the Giants have or the Panthers have. We're leaning on a talented core group of veterans, for the most part, that have been in this system And given the situation, those are good hands to be in.
Close. Like an OC that is such an outlier as to boggle the mind. What's funny about this week, Jake, is if we would go back to those charts, the only name that is in the same neighborhood as Pete Carmichael on like the lack of creativity, the lack of success, everything else, is Arthur Smith of the Atlanta Falcons. And like the Saints, who we believe have a lot of great weapons, yet do almost nothing with them. I know there's a lot. I mean, y'all can speak to this more. There's a lot of fantasy football owners out there that they hate Arthur Smith.
Yes, all the Bijan owners.
Arthur, for some reason, is not afraid to. It really is kind of the same situation as the Saints, where Arthur Smith just all of a sudden will not use Bijan Robinson. He all of a sudden will not use Drake London. Kyle Pitts hasn't been used for like 2 years. He's been on an island since he's been drafted. It is kind of sad. If I remember the charts correctly, Arthur Smith is head and shoulders above Carmichael when it comes to like RPOs, motion, all that stuff. But his efficiency level is the same as Pete Carmichael, or right there. It's right there with Carmichael. It's not the same because Carmichael's the worst, but he is close to Carmichael as far as efficiency. So this is two of the worst possible. If you throw Matt Canada in here, the recently fired Matt Canada, you would have a triple threat match from hell of the worst offensive minds in the NFL.
They're ready to murder him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's me. That's right. Yeah, I'm mad at him too.
Just like the Kyle Pitts owners the 2 years before that.
Yeah. And so get ready, because in what is just maybe one of the NFL's most time-honored traditions, we got bad on bad for Saints Falcons once again.
Oh, yeah.
The two worst play callers in the game going toe-to-toe to see who can be more inefficient with their offensive weapons. And guess what? Desmond Ridder, Jake, back under center for Atlanta.
Horrible.
I know they're going back and forth, and I know Heineke was injured as well. And so I don't know. I don't know that we can find a way to good offensive football in this one. I could try to find you a way, but both teams just struggling. The Falcons might be worse, though, because
the Falcons are worse. The Falcons are in a worse situation than us. We keep mentioning that in most of our games, if not, well, in most of them, because not Jacksonville, not Detroit, but and not Houston looking back. Derek Carr is better than Desmond Ridder. Big facts. And in the NFL, if you have the quarterback advantage, you should win most of the time. So it will be ugly. It will be bad football. The Saints' ceiling offensively has been higher. The Falcons haven't really shown anything like the Saints showed against Indianapolis, for example. The Saints have at least shown that they are capable of having a good offensive performance. The Falcons have yet to show that. The Falcons have yet to show that they're capable of having a good offensive performance. So I think the Saints are in a position to win this game. It's never easy to go on the road in the division, but I also think this is kind of a next level thought process. But anytime you play around the holidays, I think the home field is actually, or the home team is actually at a disadvantage because they're having their normal traditions all around the game, right? So, like, for example, let's take Thanksgiving Day. I know this game isn't on Thanksgiving, but take Thanksgiving Day. If you're the home team, you're at your house, your family's there, your friends are there, you're picking up turkeys, you're paying for catering, you're still having your Thanksgiving festivities. If you're on the road, you're at a hotel. You're not. You're with your team. All your traditions are out the window. There's less distraction. So I think around the holidays, it's actually better to be on the road. So I'm not going to say that the Saints are benefiting from being on the road, but it's not as big of a disadvantage as it would be in week 3.
Like, their weapons that they have, like, they don't even try to use them. I mean, we're talking fancy football here, but all jokes aside, I mean, they have, like, Drake London, and they have Kyle Pitts, and they have Bijan Robinson. Like, they don't use their weapons at the same clip that it feels like the Saints don't. Now, the Saints will use them, but you just want them to use them more and in certain situations. The Falcons, T Bob, they don't use them at all. Like,
the Falcons have, what do we always say? Good offensive coordinators or good head coaches find ways to get the ball to their playmakers. Everyone knows Travis Kelce is getting the ball. He still finds a way to get it, right? When Cooper Kupp had his big-time year, everyone knew Cooper Kupp was getting the ball. They still found a way to get it. I hate the excuse of, oh, well, he was double covered. So you don't think every coach in the NFL is trying to double cover Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson? Like, do you think that no one else thought of that possibility? No, it's just that they're so good, or offensively they're being used the right way that they still find a way to get open and impact the game, right? So the Falcons and the Saints both, but the Falcons really to the extreme, they just kind of go away from their best players. They just for some reason, I don't know if they're outthinking themselves or what, but the Saints aren't afraid to have a half or a game where Michael Thomas or Chris Olave just doesn't have a catch, doesn't have a target. The Falcons aren't afraid to have a situation where, oh, yep, Bijan Robinson doesn't have a catch. Oh, Bijan Robinson has 3 carries in the first half. Oh, Drake London has no targets. Oh, Kyle Pitts hasn't had a catch in 3 games. So there is certainly a parallel there with an inability to use their stars.
They just disappear for like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait a minute,
Exactly.
where did that very highly talented first-round pick go?
Bijan had
Is he
so
hurt?
many sick highlights too, like the first couple of games.
Well, there was people like, wait a minute, did they not put it on the injury report? Like, was he hurt all week? It's like, no, he wasn't. We just, the game plan didn't call for it. It's like, oh, the game plan doesn't call for a
your
top
best
10
player.
running
Well,
back when
no,
running backs
look.
just don't get selected in the first round.
You don't want your first round running back to get hurt though. You got to protect him.
Sure. Look,
I mean, what's
when
the
you
best way to
draft
protect him by not playing him?
when you draft a first round running back, you know that you're going to sign him for 5 years, and that's going to be his 5 best years, and after that, probably going to go downhill from there. That's what that position is. So
I think it's crazier with Kyle Pitts. Like, a running back's one thing, but to draft a tight end in the top 10, when you make that pick, you've got to be like, this is the next Rob Gronkowski. This is the next Travis Kelce. He is going to be the focal point of the offense. Kyle Pitts, for the first couple of years, it wasn't that he wasn't very good, or it wasn't that he just wasn't working out. They were not throwing him the ball. He was not part of the plan. And that's insane to make the pick, but then just be like, you know what? We're not going to use him. So then why'd you make the pick? The Falcons have been mind-boggling with London, Pitts, and Bijan.
for those 5 years, we are going to just grind you into the ground because we're trying to get 5 years out of you.
That is the most mind-boggling part of it. That's where maybe we should champion Arthur Smith. Because here he is advocating for player safety, longevity, trying to not just crassly take advantage of a great player on a rookie contract. He's trying to make sure that Bijan lasts in this league. There's something actually very noble about what Arthur Smith is doing.
I mean, they take Drake London 8th overall. This year, he has 40 catches for 474. He's missed some time, but still only 2 touchdowns, only averaging 11 yards per catch. Like, that's a top 8 receiver. When you select somebody top 8 at that position, you're expecting like explosive nature and pushing.
The thing about London and the Falcons is that they have a really hard time throwing the football. They are a run. They have been last year. They are this year. They are a run-based, run-first kind of offense. They are a grind you out, kind of kill the game. They want to win 17-14, 13-10. They want to win those kind of games, 9-6. They're not trying to let Desmond Ridder or Taylor Heineke sling it around. So that impacts Drake London. You would think, though, that would boost Kyle Pitts. Because if they want to play that kind of style of offense, they want the short, intermediate passes, which a top 10 pick tight end you would think would benefit from that. But LOL, they do not.
The ball down the field, and they're not even using him the way that everybody else uses a receiver like a Drake London.
I'm potentially stepping into, one of these things where you're all going to be like, what the hell, T Bob? Do you even watch football? But like, what's going on with Kyle Pitts? Like, is he hurt? Does he play?
35 for 419, 1 touchdown this year, and 12 yards per catch.
And that's the thing. They're using Jonnu Smith, their other tight end.
Yeah.
Jonnu Smith, he's kind of been their number 1 receiver this year. I mean, you just heard the bad numbers of Drake London, so they're not using London. Jonnu Smith's getting snaps over Kyle Pitts. They're not using Bijan. I mean, I don't know what's going on over there in Atlanta.
The weird part about that is, like, normally I'm surprised that Arthur Smith has that kind of pull. Because normally ownership calls down, like, whoa.
Arthur Smith finna be gone. Like, Arthur Smith is on the hot seat. Him, Dennis Allen, Pete Carmichael, everyone in this game I would be shocked if any of those 3 are back with their team next year. I think Smith's gone for all the same reasons that we're talking about here. I think obviously Carmichael and Allen are gone because of what we talked about for the better part of 3 months. But yeah, I mean, Smith, I think Arthur Smith at one point was thought of like, okay, he's kind of figuring things out. He's kind of got the team where it needs to be. And then this season, it's just completely gone off the rails. It's taken big time steps backwards. There's been no progression, nothing at all. So yeah, I think Smith is in some real trouble.
Hold up now. You know, we put capital into this guy. Yeah. Like you better, I don't care what you got to do. You better figure out a way to play him. But, I guess Arthur Blank has full, Blank has full trust in Smith.
Well, look, I mean, the Falcons' backup running back has the same amount of carries as Bijan. Both have 125. The thing is, Bijan's averaging 4.9. The backup's averaging 3.2.
Yeah,
4.9, 3.2. Like 3.2 is that's like fullback stats. Like when you get all the 3rd and 1 carries.
What's more frustrating this year? Cheering for the Saints offense or cheering for the Falcons offense?
I would say, good question. It's almost a draw. It's almost the same. It really is kind of exactly the same. The only difference is that Carr, like we expect our quarterback to be better than Carr has been. I don't know if the Falcons really expected Desmond Ridder to be that good. I think Desmond Ridder coming into the season was kind of like, okay, let's see what he can do. Let's like an experiment type situation. That's how I see Desmond Ridder. The Saints has been very frustrating because it's there. We've seen it. We've seen Carr be good. We've seen the offense be good. The Saints are just inconsistent. The Falcons have not even found anything to say they're inconsistent. They haven't had that up. The Falcons have just been medium, just parallel the whole time. The Falcons have been low scoring, grind it out, run the football. They've been that. Now, as far as the using the players has been the exact same. Using the players has been brutal. And I guess in that situation, the Falcons it is probably more aggravating as a Falcons fan because the players you have way more capital in the players. Like you have Bijan top 10, Drake London top 10, Kyle Pitts top 10. The Saints don't really have that. The Saints have, we know how good Michael Thomas is. We know how good Chris Olave is. We know how good Taysom Hill is and Alvin Kamara. But these aren't guys who we just took in the top 10. Like fresh off top 10 picks. So I would say it's close. I don't think there's a clear-cut winner. Both franchises are in a bad spot offensively. Both franchises have a lot of gripes. No doubt about that.
It might be the Falcons.
I mean, that alone almost makes me feel Falcons. But then again, we do have situations where Taysom Hill is dominant when he gets 8 carries or like 1,000,001, and then he gets 1 carry the next.
I think for sure it's the Falcons because look, Pete Carmichael, what do we talk about? He's not creative. He's not all this. The Falcons have these weapons, and they're not even on the field.
Yeah, but the Saints do too.
Saints are on the field.
At least the Saints are on the field. They're just not getting the ball to them. The Falcons aren't even using their weapons.
It's just bad play calling. Like the Falcons is bad play calling and use of personnel.
Damn.
So is the Saints.
But again, like I said, when you're talking about Saints-Falcons, you're talking about one of the best rivalries in the NFL from a geographical standpoint, a fan hate standpoint. You're also talking about one of the most inept rivalries in league history
I think NFL rivalries, this is controversial yet brave. I think the NFL rivalries are very created. I think they're the most non-organic thing in the world because like in college, because new players are constantly being cycled in, the rivalry stays fresh. To me, the rivalry is a rivalry in the NFL is based on that situation right there. Like when Tom Brady was with the Bucs, I would say the Bucs were our big rivals. The Falcons, who cared about the Falcons? It was us trying to win the division. It was the Bucs trying to win the division. It was Tom Brady versus Drew Brees. It was, for that moment right there, I was way more concerned about the Bucs games than the Falcons games. The Falcons were irrelevant. When Cam Newton was with the Panthers were the big game. The Panthers were the division rival. I think it's weird to be like, oh, the Falcons are always our rival. Well, what if the Falcons are last in the division? What if we're focused on Carolina or Tampa? Like Falcons hate week and all that stuff. My biggest rival the way that I look at NFL rivalries is my biggest rival is whoever we're playing that weekend. I feel the exact same way when I'm sitting in the Dome and we're playing the Bears as I do when we're sitting in the Dome and we're playing the Falcons. I want to win. I want to get a win right there. I don't care about their fans. I don't care about their roster. I just want to get a win. That's it. Just like I said, it all rotates too. If the Falcons are the worst team in the division and the Bucs are the best team in the division, why would I focus more on the Falcons? I think the NFL desperately wants rivalries. Division is one thing. I think divisional games do mean more because you play those teams all the time. You see those teams all the time. You're used to those teams and those matchups. But as far as a rivalry, I don't know about that. Like we always hear about, like the old school rivalries, like Pittsburgh and Dallas, stuff like that. Teams that played in the Super Bowl and all that. But that was 30 years ago. Like the players on the teams now, the fans on the teams now don't care about that or know about that at all. So I've never been one to be like, and as long as we beat the Falcons, that's all that matters. I think that's kind of weird. I think that's kind of off. No hate. If you dislike the Falcons, fine. If you're buying into the Falcons hate and all that stuff, then no doubt, fine. But I think the NFL has desperately tried to make those rivalries exist. And I've never really bought into it. So let me know in the comments below what you think about that. Do you buy into the NFL rivalries, or do you think kind of the same way I do, where it's a year-by-year basis, it's a situational basis, like rivalries kind of ebb and flow. We don't have, I don't think there's a Michigan-Ohio State rivalry. It's very different in college. It's very different in collegiate sports. But pro sports, even like the NBA, I think the Pelicans' biggest rival is probably the Suns, because of how heated that playoff series was, but that's because of that moment. That's because of that specific situation. And in a couple of years, when all the players are off the Suns, all the players are off the Pelicans, that rivalry will go away. Bad blood kind of creates rivalries in a vacuum, just like good matchups. Just like Brady versus Breeze. Boom, that's a rivalry. Let's roll. But different conversation for a different video.
These are two franchises whose majority of their history is just defined by bad. And here we arrive once again, a sub-500 battle between the two worst OCs in the NFL this Sunday. Let's go, boys!
And with all the bad numbers,
I do think what T Bob just said there was false, though. I think the Saints, I'm pretty sure I just saw a stat where somebody Google this. I'm pretty sure the Saints have been like one of the most winningest franchises in the last 20 years or something. It was like the last 20 years in the records of the teams, the Saints were way up there, which makes sense because the Breeze teams were really good. And we had that window of success for a long time. I mean, right now, like if you're looking at just since 2005, if you're looking at roughly the last 20 years, the Saints have not been an inept franchise. The Saints have not been a bad franchise. We've had success. We've had pretty continued success. The Falcons even were a good franchise for a while with Matt Ryan. So for the last, like I said, we'll call it 15 years. For the last 15 years, even the Falcons, when you talk about the Vic years and then the Ryan years and the Super Bowl run and all of that, and the Saints with Breeze, these have been two of the most consistent franchises, and both of them right now are in these weird transition periods. But if you look at it from a long-term point of view, these teams have been good.
Numbers and the bad head coaching record for Dennis Allen, he is undefeated against the Falcons. So hopefully he can keep that going.
That makes you feel awful. If
he didn't have that, he'd be top 5 for winning percentage of all time.
Hey, as rough as the last 2 years have been, they've been one step ahead of Atlanta. That might mean nothing for some fans, but for some Saints fans, I know
that's true.
At least
and to be fair, Nielsen and Allen, that's a good DC on DC matchup.
Yeah.
So and obviously both know each other inside out. So we'll see where it goes this Sunday. But,
and to their credit, their defense has been really good. I mean, despite all their offensive troubles, they're still in the race of the division, and they had a good offseason when it comes to signing defensive players.
Yeah, they added a lot of players.
Jesse Bates from the Falcons.
You love that move.
Bud Dupree at linebacker. Well, he's been really good this year.
No, in those ways, the Saints and Falcons do kind of mirror one another in terms of the inconsistency which they played. They're good on the defensive side of the ball. They're not nearly as good on the offensive side of the ball as.
They are very parallel franchises. I mean, you look at, they were defined by franchise quarterbacks. They were explosive, good offenses, maybe ahead of their time for a while there. They had success, NFC Championship games, Super Bowls. Both teams kind of did the same thing, and then now they're in this transitionary period. They're trying to figure each other out. They got bad coaches, so very similar situations. I think the Saints win this game. I think the Saints have to win this game. I think they're coming off a bye week. I think the Saints have been inconsistent, which means we can kind of expect them to be good because we were just bad, right? So if we look at the Saints kind of up and down, I think the Saints win here. Desmond Ridder, I would say, is a negative for the Falcons, him playing. Ridder does not lose at home, though. That is one thing that makes me worried, is that he does not lose at home in college or in the pros. Very, very good at home. Very bad on the road, but like I said, the home field kind of negated by Thanksgiving weekend. Maybe that's just me thinking, but I'd say the Saints win in an ugly one. I will say 21-17 Saints. God, please win this game. We have to win this game. It's our Super Bowl. Have to win it Sunday. Going to be nerve-wracking. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Actually, let's talk about this. As of right now, so I'm filming this kind of early because of the Thanksgiving holiday. I'm filming this on a Wednesday. As of right now, Derek Carr is in the concussion protocol. He's still there. I haven't heard anything that points to him not playing. So I'm assuming he's going to play. Michael Thomas is on the IR. That's not awesome, but if Winston plays, that changes everything. I'm assuming Derek Carr is going to play. It's hard for me to believe that he's not going to play. So that is kind of a caveat here. And I know we didn't talk about it a lot because we don't have a lot of information. All I know is that he is in the concussion protocol, but all signs point to him playing. Again, it's Wednesday. We're still kind of far away from the game, but I thought I would mention that because this is a preview, and it would be it'd be insane if we didn't talk about our franchise quarterback being in the concussion protocol. But like I said, I think he will play. So I'm predicting the Saints to win. I think Carr plays. I've got faith in the team as far as coming off of the bye, coming off of a bad performance. The inconsistencies leads me to believe this will be a tick up. I think Desmond Ridder is bad for the Falcons. I think that slows them down. They're going to try and run the ball. They're going to try and control the clock. Saints have the better defense. Saints have the better quarterback. I think we get the win. I think we get the win here. If we win this game, we probably lock up the division, because then you would assume we're going to beat the Falcons at home. We play the Panthers at home. We get the Bucks again. So this game, huge implications. If we lose this game, it makes it very difficult for us the rest of the way. Got to win. Got to win. Very nervous for this game Sunday. Thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments below what you think. I will see you in the next video.